Today I'm going to be ranking the Super Doomspire weapons. I don't know why I decided to put my voice in this video. I guess I just didn't want to do all the DTS stuff. So, you have my voice, I guess. Sorry if it sounds like a bit sick, because I've had a bit of a cough over the past week. Alright. But before I start ranking them, please like and sub. I only have like 120 subs. This channel's dead. Please help. Alright. Starting off, we've got a pretty good weapon. The arm cannon. It's not the best rocket, but it's definitely up there. One drawback is that you don't have great mobility. I'd put it in great since it has great offensive potential, but if you're running away in a pinch, this isn't for you. But if you know how to use it, it's really good. Next we have the Bombardier. This thing's decent. It's like around the same level as the arm cannon. It's really good for a splash radius. And if you shoot from far enough, it does a lot of damage. This is behind the arm cannon and great. Next we have the bow. This is I'd say it's one of the best Super Balls since it's one of the easiest to aim. Like, so many people hate the bow. It's the easiest Super Ball to aim. Don't even get me started. It's so easy to aim. Now we have some bad weapons. Okay, Brick Breaker. This thing used to be one of the worst swords in the game. It was just completely outclassed by my boy, the Frying Pan. Like, it wasn't even close. The Frying Pan gave extra damage, and what did the Brick Breaker give? Extra construction damage. What are you going to use that for? So, anyway, for the Brick Breaker, it did get a buff in its ability, but I'd still say it's bad, since that 50 brick cost is way too high to justify the damage it does. Alright, next, I've got the Bomb. The Bomb it's just that. It's basic, and it's the first bomb you get. It's not the best bomb, but it's outclassed by other bombs, but it's not bad. Like, you can use it at any stage of the game, freely. It's pretty good. Next, we have the Cage Trowel. This is one of the best trowels, in my opinion, since the only trowel that even compares to this one is the Shadow Clone. 5 bricks, you get to trap your enemies, and you also get a decently tall and wide trowel, so you can also block attacks. It's really good for its price. Next, we've got the Crystal Blaster. Oh my god. Do not get me started on this thing. I used to use this thing so much, but then everyone started clowning on me for using it since it was meta, and it was so broken at the time. So now, it's still one of the best items. It's probably one of the best rocket launchers, if not the best, since the short range actually makes it much better. It also has a really good reload speed and a really good damage output, so I'm going to have to put it at best. Right, next, we have the Dark Heart. This thing is like really good, but it used to be even better. It's minus 33% attack speed holds it back a lot. 4, it was only minus 15%, but it was like, people said it was bad, but I don't really think it was bad. This thing is good in my opinion. If it was not that good in Infection, I would put it in like mediocre, but since it's like the best sword in Infection in my opinion, I'm gonna put it in good. By the way, you do not have to agree with any of this. This is all just my opinion. You can dislike the video, give me hate comments if you don't agree. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, next up we have the Fire Sword. This thing, it's kind of a meme. It's not actually that bad, but the thing is, so many new players like to spam it, and it's just so much worse than the Ice Sword. The Ice Sword is so much better. Why would you ever use the Fire Sword when you have the Ice Sword? This is, like, below average. It's not bad, but it's just outclassed by the Ice Sword. Alright, next we have the Great Sword. Now, this is the definition of a mediocre weapon. It, basically halves your movement speed. Not halves, that's an exaggeration, but it also it gives you a lot more damage, let's just say. But it completely destroys your swing speed, and it also destroys your movement speed, which is the downside. You're basically a tank in this, but without the health and higher damage output. I'd say it's really good if you're fighting in a small space and you don't have to run around, but if you're trying to chase someone down, this is not for you. You're going to get destroyed. Right. Next up, we have the Home Runner. Now, if I was ranking this thing in the early days, I'd probably put it in Abysmal since it didn't have the batter up ability. You could still swing, but it wouldn't give you any buffs. However, after the admins buffed it, it's actually pretty good since batter flights, they're broken. They're not hard to hit at all, and if you like make contact with the person at all, anytime during the remote detonation launch, you basically hit them. So I put this at good. Also, it's one of the community's favorite weapons, so I gotta put it at good, you know? And next up, we got the Hoss Hog. This used to be, like, really good up here, but after, it's probably dropped somewhere down here, since now you take 15 damage whenever you hit yourself. Like, that's not that much, but since it's a stalling item, you're probably going to use it a lot, and if you're going to use it a lot, you're going to take a lot of damage, which means it's bad. Right. Next up, we have the Ice Sword. The Ice Sword is above average in my opinion. It's not like great. It's not comparable to like the Arm Cannon Bombardier, but it's still good in its own right. It's around the same level as the Home Runner. The good thing about the Ice Sword is that you don't get any debuffs. The only real debuff you get is that you lose your lunge for a swing ability, but you also like lose cooldown. Instead of 3 seconds, you wait 2.4 seconds. So it does slightly more damage. However, you do sacrifice mobility, so I don't think it's as good as the stock sword. Next up, we have the Lava Ball. Now, this item, before you could build travels on it. I don't know if it's patched now. I didn't test it. I didn't want to. So, it's kind of just there. I'm going to have to put this one in below average. It does decent damage, but the fact that you give up not ragdolling for like an extra 15 damage, there's Shadow Shuriken and Bow that are better. Oh, sorry, I had a bit of a cough, but I'm just saying, Lava Ball, 39 damage plus 10 damage over time. That's not it. That's not it at all. There's so many better options. Alright, next up, we've got the paintball gun. Oh, where do I start with this thing? Okay, so I'm just going to start off by saying it's just the slingshot, where's the slingshot, but worse. The reason why, it does less damage, it has around the same fire, it has slightly more range, that's what I'll give it, but it can be reflected. Like, that's one of the big downfalls of the whole thing. I'm just going to have to put it in Abysmal. By the way, slingshot is not even that good. It's probably a mid-weapon, but the paintball gun is just so much worse that I have to put it in Abysmal. It's just useless. Alright. Pokeball, it's good if your opponent is one shot away from dying, since you have and they're pretty close, but that's a very niche circumstance, since usually if you have, like, let's say a coconut or something, you can just ragdoll them into the void, or you can just use a rocket and one-shot them. Very rarely will they be, like, around 30 to 40 HP, and you could just Super Bowl them. Not to mention, this thing has really bad range. It's not minus 20% range, it's like minus 50% range. It's terrible, but it does get the job done, but in my opinion, it's just Lava Ball, but worse. But the extra hitbox is kind of nice. I'll admit that, but it's not the best. Alright. Next up, we've got the best bomb, in my opinion, the remote detonator. So, before the nerf, it had two nerfs. The first nerf was before I think it was July 2020 update, you could throw one on the ground, and then you could throw one without charging it, and you could instantly blow it up. It was really busted. But then they fixed it, and it was still one of the best items. Now, recently, they made it so that you can't bomb jump with it, I think, if you only have one place. So you have to have at least 2 or more place down to bomb jump. So, it's still the best bomb. So, I'm going to have to put it in best, but it's at the bottom of best, since I don't think it's as good as the other items in bests. Alright, next up, we've got the Rockstar. This is... I don't see a big use for this. If you don't want to lose your lunge, this is for you, but it's mediocre for me, since you sacrifice 50% of your rapid speed just for a move that rarely ragdolls and does a little knockback. I mean, yeah, you could use it, but it's not practical, so I'm just gonna put it mediocre. It's fun to use, sure, but that doesn't mean it's good. Alright, we got the Shadow set next. Shadow Dragon, it's always been like an above average to great rocket. I used this when I first started out, and I was completely satisfied with it. The only reason I switched off of it is because this guy. Yeah, I picked him up, and he was broken. But before that, I used the Shadow Dragon, and I was completely happy. It was really good, it had really good AoE, and did burn damage a lot. Why am I putting all the rockets in great? Like, what am I doing? Okay. Next up, we've got the Shadow Blade. Now, this is the best sword, in my opinion. Let me tell you why. So, right now, all swords do 35 damage, I think, besides Shadow Blade on the lunge. Shadow Blade does 50 damage. That's a lot of damage. This also gives 50% more lunge distance, which is absolutely broken, and you only sacrifice 4 damage. So it does 21 damage on normal swings, and you can still strike attack. It's absolutely busted. Also, it's better for reflections, I think. So this a bit of a backstory on the Shadow Blade. It used to be garbage, I think. No one really used it. I tested it out for a while, and I didn't like it since you didn't get any extra lunge damage, and the only good thing about it was that you got extra lunge speed / lunge distance, and that was about it. There was nothing else to it. So it was back then. It was like here for me, but now after the lunge was nerfed to 40 damage and then 35 damage, I think it deserves a spot as the best. Next up, we've got the Shadow Bomb. This has always been like a below average bomb for me, since it's not as good as like Sticky Bomb, I think, for bomb jump, and it's not as good as other bombs for blowing stuff up. Let me explain why. This bomb basically sacrifices most of its AoE for a half invis. So how the half invis works is that you kind of become transparent, but you don't fully become transparent. Obviously, if you became fully invisible, that would be completely broken, but since it's only half invis, it's kind of easy to see, and you just sacrifice all that bomb jump for no reason. So, actually, I'm going to have to put this one in bad. There's no point in using it. Don't use this item. Oh, now we have the Shadow Clone. We're on to some good items. Alright, the Shadow Clone, instant best. It's one of the best trials. It's on par with Cage. It's not better than the Cage in every situation. I'd say it's better than Cage in Classic, in like Islands, and some other maps. I'm forgetting maybe Galaxy, but Cage is better on maps that you can build a lot on, like Lava. The Shadow Clone used to be, it used to be by far the best thing. You know why? Because you had less of a cooldown with it, and you could also instant TP with it. Like, second you took it out and clicked it, you basically disappeared. It was like insane, but they had to nerf it. I'm pretty sure they reduced the brick cost to 5 for a while, but now it's back up to 15, I think. Or it's still at 5. I'm just dumb. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm not sure. Okay, but this is still the best. Also, now it creates like a bit of an explosion when you hit it. That's I just thought I'd mention that. It's not really that useful, but it's a bonus, so I'll just put that in. Next, we have the Shadow Shuriken. This is by far the best Super Ball for direct damage. It's not as good. I'd say it's somewhere near the bow, but it's at the bottom of best, since the bow, it has really good range. It shoots really well. The Shadow Shuriken, it has a kind of bad vertical hitbox, and it doesn't have the best range. It's kind of hard to aim. It's not hard to aim, but it's harder to aim compared to like Stock Ball and Coconut, so I'm going to have to put it at the bottom of best. It does more damage than the bow, but it's still 2 shots, and it has worse range, so I think the bow is better, in my opinion. Don't have to agree with me. Alright, Slingshot. This is mediocre for me. This can 5-shot, but The problem I have with Slingshot is that it has absolutely zero range, so it's basically just a worse boomerang. It can shoot decently well, but it doesn't have the same rapid fire that something like arm cannon does. Well, it has the same fire rate, but it doesn't have the same damage per second per se. It doesn't do enough damage to be worth it, and you're sacrificing your ragdoll, so something like Super Ball is way better. Next up, we have a Spike Trowel. Spike Trowel is good. It's not the best trowel. Like, I don't think it can compare to Cage and Shadow Clone at all, but it's definitely good. So, the meta I see for this is, during sudden death, people always try to place it underneath you, and this is a good meta. Like, I think that's a good strategy, but it's really not that great for any other situations. I feel like they should increase the range for this one, just to make it more interesting, and it's also pretty good in infection, so yeah, there's that. Also, if I forgot to mention this, if an item's good in another mode, I'm gonna have it, but it's really bad in the other modes, it's probably gonna be like mid, unless it's really good in classic and it's really bad in party mode, because party mode doesn't matter as much. I'm sorry, party mode fans, but party mode sucks. Okay, that's just the truth. Okay. I'm done ranting about party mode. Alright. Oh, how did I miss this? Okay. Frying Pan. Frying Pan, it's pretty good for infection. It's also, before it was probably mediocre, but after the admins buffed it, I'd say it's good, since now it's like Home Runner. After you use the ability, you have a short jump, double jump in the air, and it can also launch bombs now, which is pretty cool. I love launching. Actually, I'm going to put it like higher. I'm going to put it next to Ice Sword, above Ice Sword. And yeah, it's just pretty solid. There's nothing much to say. Okay, rocket launcher. The rockets right now, they're pretty balanced. I'd say they're all around equal. Besides Crystal, obviously, it's like broken, but it's around the same as all these other rockets. It's the jack of all trades. Basically, it has decent fly speed, it has decent AoE, it has decent damage, it has decent everything. It's pretty good for every situations, but not the best. There's always going to be something better for it, but it's pretty versatile, so I'll give it that. Next, we have the Super Ball. The Super Ball is insane. It has really good range, and it staggers / ragdolls people. It also is an instant 30 damage, even if you don't charge it, so yeah. It's not that hard to aim, and it flies really fast, so it's hard to dodge. It's basically impossible to dodge. So that's why I'm putting it in best. Next, we have the Stock Sword. Stock Sword is great. It's not as good as the Shadow Blade, not close, but Sword, it's also similar to the Socket. It's the jack of all trades, but it actually is one of the best swords for strike attacking or sword spamming, since if you sword spam it, you can basically get them to 5 health in 2 seconds. It's insane. If you click it 3 times, it goes to, your opponent goes from 100 health to 5 health. It's crazy. Just because of the early game potential, I'm going to put it at the top of grade. You don't have to be good for this. You just sword spam, okay? Alright, next we got the tennis racket. Now, this isn't very useful outside of Round Cat. In Round Cat, it's the best sword, but in Classic, it's mediocre, per se. It's below average. There's so many better options. Home Runner, Pan, and like projectile swords, Ice Sword and Fire Sword are better outside, but it's by far the best in Round Cat, so I have to put it mediocre. It's at the bottom mediocre, though. It's barely mediocre. Alright, next we got the Trampoline Trowel. This is, in my opinion, the best. No, not even in my opinion. It's the best trowel for stalling. The issue I have with this is that you can only place 2. So after you place your third one, the first one you place goes away. But if you could place more than 2, it would be completely broken. Or is it 3? I'm not sure. Just don't flame me in the comments if I'm wrong. Trampoline trowel users, I'm sorry. Okay, so this isn't the best trowel, but I'd say it's somewhere, it's pretty great. Yeah. Okay, the problem I have with this is that on maps like Classic and Islands, it's really hard to use. Well, it's not bad on Islands. It's Classic and Galaxy, it's really hard to use, since After you fall on the edge of something, you can't get back up with this. It's either you have a surface to put it on and then you bounce really far up, or you don't have a surface to put it on and you're dead. So, yeah. Sorry, trampoline trowel. You were good. Not anymore. Alright. Trowel. It's similar to the trampoline trowel. It's not similar in terms of gameplay, but first of all, it's a wall. You can just place it in front of you and block attacks. It's really good. I'd say it's somewhere near the top, not as good as Arm Cannon, but yeah, Arm Cannon is a decent cowl for Trowel Spam. Trowel Spam is really good since it only costs 1 brick, and you can just auto-click basically in front of you, and you're not going to take any damage unless they get around you, that is. It's also really good for tipping towers. It's better than Cage for tipping towers, since it only costs 1, and you can just build a stack of 2, and that's only 2 bricks. And, yeah, nothing to say. It's just a pretty good trowel, in my opinion. Oh, now we have my favorite trowel, a Trust Trowel. Okay, so you can perform some crazy saves with this. My personal best is a Septa save, which is 7 trusses in a row. I think this is a really good item, but unfortunately I can't put it in best. Here's why. You see this cost, right? 5 bricks. 5 bricks is way too much for a truss. It used to be 2. If it was 2, I would put it here, but since it's not, I'm putting it down here. Since you're always going to spam truss, you have to use it to block things, and you also need it for saving. The problem I have in early game, when we just start the round, is whenever I'm close to being knocked off, I'm limited to 2 trusses before I run out of bricks. So that's really stupid, in my opinion. Alright, next up we got some more decent weapons. Alright, Vox. I'm going to say it's not good anymore. It used to be better, but now it's completely outclassed by Shadow Blade for stalling, and you don't really need jump in my opinion, but if you did need jump, I'd say it's outclassed by the Flying Pan, since you can double jump with that, and you can do it midair. You don't really get a double jump midair with the Vox. Now, Vox's lunge is bad. I can't think of anything else. It has no lunge, basically. Actually, I'm going to put it in bad. Screw this. It used to be good since it actually had a lunge, but now that it doesn't really have a lunge, it's just bad for stalling, bad for damage. The only use for this is, I think it was Spritelanders used an Arm Cannon combo, which was Arm Cannon and then lunge Air Vox, so it was basically an instant kill combo, but now Vox's lunge is just so bad that you can't really get close enough, so I'm going to have to put it in bad. I'm sorry, Vox users. Ball Turret. This thing is somewhere around this range. It used to do 20 damage in Ragdoll, it wasn't a big Ragdoll, it was a light Ragdoll, but that was still a lot. Ball Turret, the thing is, with Ball Turret, it always gets changed, so this might not be accurate. By the way, this is all as of today. June, what day is it? June 2022, so this might be different depending on when you watch it, but it's as of June 8th, okay? Don't flame me in the comments, okay? Ball Turret, it's always changing. Before, it was 30 damage in Ragdoll, then it got decreased to 20 damage in Ragdoll, and now it's 30 damage without Ragdoll. I personally prefer 30 damage without Ragdoll, because if you got hit with it before on lava or something, you're a dead man. If you get 20 damage and then an extra 50 damage from lava, you're basically dead. You're as good as dead. But now that it's nerfed, it's not that great, honestly. It's alright in infection, but no one does infection, and you can just use your Dark Heart in infection to lifesteal, so you don't need the Ball Turret at all. So I'm gonna have to put it in Abysmal. There's really no use for this thing anymore. Boomerang. Okay, this is the best Super Ball for stalling, but it's good, but the sacrifices you're making is the thing. You're losing out on the fastest speed projectile that is the only projectile that staggers. And you do get quite a decent item for it, but in for what you're sacrificing, I'm going to have to put it at mediocre, since I just don't like giving up potential of super balls just for a small jump in midair. Alright, boomerang. This thing's pretty good. I mean, again, you're replacing super balls, but it's better mid-range since you can get more outright damage mid-range. If you mid-range someone with, let's say, a coconut, you can probably stagger them, but they'll also take knockback, so you can't do combos as well. The boomerang works really well in combos. I'm going to have to put it in great. It works really well in combos. It's basically just slingshot, but better. If you hit it twice and then you land a lunge or something with Shadow Blade, they're a dead man. If you land normal lunge, they're not dead yet, but they're one shot, so you can just like strike attack them or like normal attack. I don't know. It's really solid. And we got Bridge Trowel. Oh god. Okay. This thing is completely useless. First of all, 3 bricks. Who's paying 3 bricks for this thing? Second, you got a trowel. This is probably the conversation that the devs had. Hey, we've got a great trowel that only costs 1 brick, and it's thick, and it's spammable. So why don't we just make a worse version of that that's thinner, is really hard to clutch on, and costs more? It's not that bad, but since there's just a way better option, I'm going to have to put it in abysmal. There's no use for this thing. Never use it. You're never going to find use for it. I'm sorry, Bridge Trowel. Unless you're, like, bridge golfing someone, but I'm pretty sure that was patched, so no. Just no. Oh, the coconut, my favorite Super Bowl. A lot of people hate on this thing. It used to have plus 50% ragdoll time instead of plus 25%, which was really broken. The plus 25% is fair in my opinion, because without it, it would just have extra construction damage, and who wants that? Like, that's a garbage stat that did not need to be added. Okay, I'm gonna have to put this in best, since you can still hit really easy shots on it. It's above Super Bowl, and like it's probably here, mid best, since you do need good hand-eye coordination / aim to use it, but once you master it, you're basically unstoppable from a long range. Laser cannon. Alright. This thing is mediocre. Let me tell you why. It's just rocket launcher, but worse. I'm pretty sure it has a bigger cooldown. The only thing it outperforms the stock it in is knockback, but you don't really need knockback as much. This thing shoots 2 rockets, and it has around the same jump as the rocket launcher. The problem with that, though, is that if you shoot 1 rocket off the edge and only get launched by 1, you have a really tiny rocket jump. And then you have to wait like 5-6 seconds to shoot again. It's really dumb. And yeah, it's really not that great. It's mediocre. If you want to change from stock it a different playstyle, use this, but otherwise stock it's just better. Don't use it. Scope shot. Okay, this is one of the best rockets. I love the fly speed on this. The only thing holding it back, which is really fair to be honest for such a broken item, is the fact that it only has 80%. No, it's probably even less than 80% of its actual blast radius that stock it has. But this is because it flies so fast that if it had a bigger blast radius, it would be the best, you know? It's not comparable to like some of these top tier items, but it's definitely really good. It's the second best rocket in my opinion. Yeah, it's just really good. Alright, Snowball. Where do I put it? I don't really use this thing much. I've seen other people use it. I think it's good, but it's pretty good. It's not the best. You can freeze people, but it's better lava ball. You can freeze people, which is more valuable than fire damage in my opinion. And freezing is just really good since you can land shots easier and you can keep freezing them. But it's not as good as stagger. Sorry, snowball users. So we're nearing the end. I'm kind of bored too. You're bored? I know. Okay, square bomb. This is a good bomb, but it's just worse than the stock bomb, since for plus 5% detonation time, you get a square bomb, but when are you ever going to use this? If you use it when the tower's like tilted to the side, it's just going to slide right off. And if it's normal and you don't want it to get launched away. Just plant the bomb. You don't need to use this. There's no point in it. I'm just going to put it in below average because there's no point. Finally, the last item, sticky bomb. Now, this is a wild card. You have to have really good like aim with this for it to be good. It can be good outside of that, but honestly, if you don't know how to hit people with this, don't use it. The remote detonator and classic bomb are just way better alternatives. This thing cannot like do nearly as much bomb jump as them, and it just has a lower blast radius, I think, and a higher detonation time. But also, you always have to charge this thing whenever you're throwing it. If you're not charging it when you're throwing it, you'll get a lot less range. So, yeah, just remember charging it. Alright. I'm going to put it in good, since it's around the same level as the bomb. I'm going to put it higher in good, though. Alright. If you just skip to the end to look at the final tier list, it's this. Alright? Alright. That's all. Remember, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.